We found out just after Christmas that there was going to be a royal visit and the date. We weren't told, we were just told it was going to be a senior royal, so we didn't know who that would be. We found out fairly shortly afterwards it would be the King and Queen Consort, but we were sworn to secrecy until a date in February when it went public, which I think was around the 21st of February, so quite late on in the proceedings. So, you know, we wanted to tell everybody, because of course you would, but they said if it gets out, then the visit might be cancelled, so we had to keep it zipped, and it was difficult, but we managed it.
How did you feel personally about this?
Absolutely thrilled, because we'd had the mood music was that it wasn't going to be till the summer, until after my mayoral term was over, which was fair enough, because we've had a lot during our mayoral year. But when we found out we were going to get the royal visit as well, it was an absolute thrill, and the mayoress and I were delighted, and yeah, and then we started preparing for it.
And why did Colchester qualify for such a high honour?
As part of the Platinum Jubilee, 8 new cities in the UK were awarded city status. Colchester was one of 3 in England that got it.
You'll know when he's back. It looks like night.
Oh, they're going in that way.
Oh, it looks like night.
Thousands lining the streets. There were 1 or 2 protesters, but I think they turn up everywhere. And the police were, you know, peaceful right to protest is a thing in UK democracy, so I'm sure the King and Queen Consort are used to that. But, you know, 99.9% of the crowd were favourable and really thrilled that we were getting this royal visit, and cheering and waving and drowning out any protest there might have been. You might remember the weather on the forecast on the day was very poor. They thought it might even be snow and sleet, but actually it turned out to be a really nice, cold but nice day. So they were going to fly in by helicopter to the barracks, but they changed their plans because of the weather and drove.
I was going to ask you about that, because that actually caused a problem, didn't it?
Yes, it did, because all the arrangements were that they would fly in and so we'd made all the arrangements that they would then drive from Merville Barracks. But in the end, they drove all the way in from London, and so, you know, last minute changes to what was going to happen. But in the end, they arrived early.
Bus lane.
Band, cover and dress.
The Lord Lieutenant has to meet the King as the King's representative in Essex, so she was the one who would meet the car at the gates of the castle, the big Cllr gates in Cllr Crescent. So she met them, and then she introduced me to the King and Queen Consort and her husband. First thing the King said to me was, "I'm sorry if I've caused you so much trouble." So after saying, "Good morning, Your Majesty," I said, "It's no trouble at all, we're absolutely thrilled and honoured to have you." He showed an interest in everybody that he met. It was a delight to be with him. Everybody the King and Queen Consort spoke to were delighted. There were also groups from refugees. They specifically asked to meet any refugees that were in Colchester, so Ukrainians, Syrians. We've got a marvellous group in Colchester called African Families in the UK. We've got a Bangladeshi group, and they were all there, and he takes a real interest in diversity. So it was great for him to converse with them as well.
And then they went over the bridge, as it were, into the castle. What was he seeing then?
Well, he asked me when it was built. Fortunately, I'd done some cribbing, so I did know. And he said, I don't think I've ever been here before. And I don't think you have, sir. And so he was asking about the castle, and, built on Roman foundations, obviously, and he showed a real interest, because another one of his interests is history, of course. And then we went through the door, and that's where the dignitaries that I mentioned earlier had lined up. So he met all them, again having wonderful conversations with them, putting everybody at their ease, and I hope you're warm enough and all that sort of thing. And then met the staff at the Castle Museum, and one of our managers, Pippa, took him round and showed him some of the Queen Consort, some of the exhibits.
Why the Central Library?
The Queen Consort has a real interest in literacy and literacy skills and reading, and it's the year of reading this year. So she wanted in particular to go and they gave her a library card while she was there, which I thought was a lovely touch. Listen to some reading, make sure that they're doing an initiative at the library where children on free school meals are getting a free library card, which I think is lovely. And so there was a bit of a performance of Alice in Wonderland where we got the Mercury Theatre involved in that. The library staff did themselves proud. I mean, I think you'll agree, it's not the most attractive building in Colchester, but it's because that's what they asked for. So the King went upstairs and spoke to Age UK and Age Well East, because he has an interest in older people's services. And the Queen Consort sat downstairs and listened to reading and spoke to library staff and met Dermot O'Leary, which again, I'm not sure if it was a bigger thrill for her or him, but they showed an interest in each other. Certainly that Dermot got as many selfies as the Queen Consort did.
Right. What about security? Because that must have been a major issue.
Extremely tight, we couldn't believe. I think Chief Constable told us there were nearly 400 police officers deployed in Colchester on that day. So most of Essex Police, I would have thought, were here. And yeah, it was incredibly tight. They had people on the roofs of the town hall and the castle and all the route. Because you can't be too careful with security, because it was, it's a very high risk procedure having a royal visit by the King and the Queen Consort.
And also in a garrison town.
Absolutely. So, but the police did a wonderful job. They really did. I think they engaged with the crowd well. It was very good-humoured, and it went like a dream, thank goodness.
When you look back on it now, I mean, how important was that visit, you think, to the town itself?
The city?
I beg your pardon, the city, indeed, yes.
I think it's vitally important because it gave us a higher profile. We think city status is going to be so good for Colchester in terms of economic investment and tourism and getting more visitors to come to our wonderful city. And a royal visit obviously put us on the map. It was on the national news, it was on the regional news, it was in the papers. And I think we did ourselves proud on the day. Colchester really came out and showed it in its best colours.
And what about personally? What's your view on it?
Absolutely, it's been a wonderful year, an incredible year. We've so enjoyed the honour of being Mayor and Mayoress of Colchester in this historic year. And this was just the cherry on the icing on the cake, to meet the King and the Queen Consort. And to find them so amenable and friendly. And, as I think it was Dermot who said to me, they're just human beings like the rest of us. So, you sort of get a bit nervous and apprehensive at the thought of, I'm going to meet the head of state. But, perfectly normal, perfectly reasonable conversations, and lovely to meet them. So I will remember it for the rest of my life.